Good morning. It is very bright, but an otherwise lovely morning. The birds and the frogs and everything are out in full force. And I've been standing here at the little drainage pond for a while, but I haven't seen any frogs. I was hoping to open up the video with a frog, but it's just not happening, so I'm not going to wait any longer. We're going to go ahead and get the video started. Good morning. Now, I know that over the weekend something rather wild happened. The Trump rally in Pennsylvania, of course, is what I'm talking about. Now, there's some things that we do know and there's some things that we don't know. But I'm not going to discuss the factoids. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is, like always, what can you do about it? The answer is very little, but I encourage you, like always, to whenever it comes to the media circus, to give things a few days to a week before you start, really formulating a strong opinion on anything. That's if you should even care at all, which I encourage you not to care. For many reasons that I've talked about before, which I'm not going to go over again, I think that caring about national politics and large, big tent movements, we have seen that just doesn't really go well for us. I don't think that populism is going to fix this. The things that we face that are bad, the deracination, the childlessness, the lack of real industry, real jobs, real ethnic, national identity. We lack those things. There's a car coming. Okay, there it goes. I can take my blast shield up now that it's now that we're out of the Daystar's death ray. Anyway, the problems we face, like I talk about very often, are not going to be fixed with populism and big tent movements. We're going to have to generate and build culture, community, the things that we want our children and our children's children to have for the future. Be concerned, like always, with local politics, etc., etc. I say this stuff ad nauseum. But specifically, this assassination attempt. Take it on the surface for what it is. I know that we have been lied to and manipulated and all this other stuff for years and years. I get that. And that how we're always very skeptical to believe the things we read and see in the news. But it's kind of surprising that someone hasn't tried to shoot Trump already, with how much they've been calling him super evil Satan Hitler for years and years, and radicalizing, unhinged, spiteful mutant morons. It's kind of surprising nobody's shot at him yet. And I agree that there are a lot of suspect things about this entire assassination attempt, especially the seeming incompetence of the Secret Service around him. But competency crisis these days, a lot of the ones that we can see and that I read about are women. I mean, it's probably just incompetence. It's probably not, it was an inside job to try to kill him or something like that. It's just probably not true. It was probably just what it seems like so far. Probably. Now again, like I say, sometimes a year later things come out that change everything. We've seen that happen too. Like, remember how different the George Floyd case ended up being. A few days, a few weeks, and then a few months afterwards, how we learned more and more things and got to see more and more people connected to all of the events be exposed and connected to, the usual suspects. Maybe that could happen with this, but I don't think so. I read everything I could find on it yesterday and today, and it just seems like some TDS spiteful mutant shot at him. And thankfully, he was incompetent and missed. Unless you want to get real tinfoil hat and say the person who was killed was the real target, but that's like movie stuff. I don't think that's true. So, I just wanted to tell you guys, as powerful and as wealthy and influential as Trump is, he's one guy going against an inordinately corrupt machine. The United States government and military-industrial complex. And so I don't think that MAGA and Trump are going to save us. I just don't. I hope and I pray that Trump and MAGA and all this will actually mean something and be used for good to start fixing what's actually wrong. But I'm very skeptical because we saw what he did and how much he lied his first 4 years. We saw how whenever his hands fell upon the levers of power, he discovered that those levers did not work for him when he pulled them. Trump was not supposed to win. It was unexpected when he did the first time, but they're ready for him this time. They've had the last 4 or 5 years to prepare, to further rig. I don't mean voting. I mean Washington, the alphabet agencies, the courts. They've had 4 years to get ready for another Trump. So I believe that if he gets into office, he might even be less effective than he was the first time. Just with how corrupt everything is and how galvanized the them versus us is becoming in everything. Unless there are a lot of people that have just been keeping their head down in the government and they really are on the side of righteousness and are willing to stick their heads up and risk themselves if Trump tries to do something bold like drain the swamp and taking an axe to the alphabet agencies. Maybe. Just maybe, if there's enough people still in the system with the heart and the mind to do what's right, maybe there could be some real change. But those are big, big ifs that I'm not convinced of. So whether he's shot or not, whether he is victorious in his campaign run or not, and whether or not Joe Biden is even alive come November, I don't have any faith in the system or in this election. I just don't have any faith in it. So I hope and pray that I'm wrong and that things do get better. But at this point, I guess I'm just a pessimist. Maybe I'm jaded, but I just don't see anything good coming of it. So maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I do want to remind you of one thing. I had a stream with British Night Sunday. I'm recording this Monday morning to upload Tuesday morning. So to me, it was yesterday. For to you, it'll be 2 days ago on British Night's channel, where me and Kizza and British Night talked about all these topics. And the most important thing that I shared was that, remember, the evil oligarchs, the anti-white devils that rule us, they're not all the same and they don't all want the same things. Some love Israel, some hate it. Some like Christianity, some hate it. Some want us to be a singular world power, America specifically. Some don't. Some want more open-ended, even worse kinds of globalism than the old school NWO neocon warhawk people. So I think that knowing what I do about how power works and who decides what, I don't think that Trump is like a double agent or anything. I don't think that he's pretending to be someone he's not. I think Trump is genuinely who he puts forward. But he will be used by people who have agendas, who already have power and agents in play. Just like we saw people like Kushner pissing in his ear the first time. We already know that Trump is a big friend of Israel. He's from New York. In ethos, he's very similar to a 90s Clinton-era Democrat. So Trump is not going to, I don't think anyway, I don't expect Trump to be the Caesar or the Hitler that anywhere close to how the media talks about him. I don't think that that's even in him to do that. And being an ally of Israel and, being from New York, we'll say, and openly, I wouldn't call Trump a Zionist. He's Trump. He loves money. He likes being famous, so he needs the media. He needs big banks. He's from New York. He inherently, I think, because of all of those factors, is on board with Jews and Israel. He just, like a lot of people like him. Also, he's an old boomer, or maybe even born just before the boomer cutoff, but he was raised on the mind poison our parents and grandparents were. So, someone like him taking power, I think, is something that many power players in the regime would want. Especially the ones who are Zionists or are part of the American war machine globalism crowd. they would want, like your Tony Blairs and people like that, they want someone like Trump in power because they want competent white men to come back to the table. There's a car coming. Give me just a second. Okay, there it goes. All right. But yeah, they need competent white men to get involved with the military again. They need competent white men to get activated in running things. The people who I think are not so rabidly psycho-ideologically driven, like the Fabian type of people that we covered on Empire of Lies, regular bureaucratic management people that are underneath the anti-white oligarchs, right? They see things falling apart because the competency crisis. Also, the purge of white people from white people's countries is really affecting how everything works. Food production, transportation, energy, logistics, everything. And so I think that some of the powers that be, not all of them, some of them would very much welcome a more return to like 80s and 90s mentality to get more competent white people involved again, even if it's a lie. So I think that all those factors together, again, this has nothing to do with the lunatic who shot at Trump. This is just me talking about stuff, right? I'm not saying that this ties into that at all. But I think that the powers that be are going to embrace and roll with Trump and move back into him being the leader, because not only does his public campaign look inevitable, I don't really, have a lot of faith in voting and democracy, as you guys well know, but I think that the powers that be, some of them, realize that they have pushed us too hard and too fast, and things are falling apart. Some of them realize that, and I think those ones are perhaps the ones that would embrace and support a more 90s era, let's all be normal again type of mentality. And the forever war machine people, they need white boys to go die for Israel again. And so having a hyper-patriotic, well-respected populist white guy in office is very conducive to their plans to getting white men to join the military and go get shot for the war machine. So I believe I've blathered enough about Trump and what's going on. I wanted to put all of those kernels in your mind for this week. Just to be mindful, like we've been lied to, we've been burned before. I think that it's important to have a realistic outlook on what it is we face, what it is we can do. And so I'll leave you with this. Like always, focus on the local, focus on self, family, community, building what you can locally with others, even if it's just you and 5 people that you talk to about what's going on in your local area, making calls to your sheriff, your alderman, your mayoral executive, your local representative, being active and concerned with how the children are taught around you, with your church, with your friends, with the people who live in your subdivision, with the people who live in your mountain holler, like where I live. Being active and concerned and policing the things that are connected to you personally. That is what I think our efforts as regular people should be focused on. And we shouldn't care too much about these big tent movements and expecting a magic Caesar to come down from the heavens to fix everything. Unfortunately, that's a fairy tale. That's a fantasy. That's not coming for us. The only future that we are going to have is the one that we build with our own hands and the culture that we generate ourselves. That's the only way out of this. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. That's all I've got to say. My voice is starting to get a little weak. I don't know exactly what we're doing for Empire of Lies this week, but we'll do something. And like always, I'll be back next Monday night with more Discordant Dragons. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed week. God bless.